When I was 7 months pregnant, out to here, and he said, "You are not pregnant, it's all in your head. If you are pregnant, it is not mine. My last name, and do not put me on the birth certificate," is exactly what it said.
I'm not her father because while in the Coast Guard, just before she informed me that she was pregnant.
And you've got 3 kids after that, Mr. McBain. How are you
have
sterile?
3 kids after that. It was due to stress. I was under a great deal of...
you were under stress with other women.
This one kicks off like a soap opera. Ms. Chmielewski claims her late boyfriend, Georgie, is the father of her son, Xavier, but Georgie's parents aren't convinced. The drama in this courtroom is about to go from whoa to what?
Ms. Chmielewski, you say you had a loving 5-year relationship with the defendant's son, Georgie, who unfortunately died in a motorcycle accident. You claim the defendants initially accepted your son, Xavier, but now need proof that they are Xavier's grandparents.
Ms. Chmielewski shares how devastated she was when Georgie died, but his parents are like, who even are you? They never knew about the alleged 5-year relationship. Things get even messier when Georgie's parents question the entire story.
I was devastated, heartbroken.
I just making me understand one thing. Why didn't I know about you?
I don't understand why you didn't know about me either.
Okay, that's not an answer.
5-year relationship?
I've never seen you at my house.
Did you ever ask Georgie why you haven't introduced me to your parents?
No, because we were just friends. It was like a sexual friendship that we had for so many years.
Ms. Chmielewski didn't meet Georgie's parents until after his death, making things super awkward. Mrs. Brown admits she had never heard of her. Tensions rise, and soon DNA tests and ghost stories will be thrown in.
Did you call his parents, or you felt like you didn't know them?
I didn't have their number.
I don't know her. I met her after Georgie passed.
So at what point did you finally decide I need to reach out to his parents because
she didn't. I reached out to her. I reached out to her. Okay, my son is not here. I'm picking up where he left off.
Georgie's friend urges his parents to look into Xavier's paternity. Mrs. Brown decides to check it out after neighborhood chatter won't stop. Then someone mentions Xavier has Georgie's nose, adding even more drama.
I pursued this test is because a friend of Georgie told him, you need to find out if this baby is Georgie. It's other people in the neighborhood must be saying something because he came to me after 2 years. He brought this to my attention. It went over my head.
You told me that he looks like all your other grandkids. But that's what you said. He has Georgie's nose.
My grandkids are biracial.
Ms. Chmielewski says she and Georgie once tried a home DNA test but couldn't afford it. Georgie's parents ask why she didn't come to them, and things get awkward. Even the judge seems baffled by this situation.
He and Georgie was doing a home DNA test a couple months before he had passed, and we couldn't come up with the money. After, I think it was like 5 months, then he had passed away. So then
you should have came to me then.
He was 2 weeks before he turned 1.
Did Georgie accept Xavier? Did they have a relationship?
He saw him a couple times.
5-year relationship? You only saw him a couple times?
Turns out there's another possible father who's also passed away. Ms. Chmielewski tried reaching out to his family for a DNA test, but got no response. Now, 2 families are involved, and things are getting confusing.
No. Did you ever tell the other guy?
He had passed away when I was 5 months pregnant.
Oh.
He had got murdered. A family member of mine had contacted his family. They did not respond.
So both potential fathers of this beautiful little boy had passed away?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what happened to the parents?
I can't contact, a friend of mine contacted his sister.
Ms. Chmielewski presents a video showing Georgie's supposed spirit near Xavier. The judge and Mrs. Brown look on skeptically. It's funny, spooky, and just when you think it can't get weirder, it does.
And in the video, you can see Georgie's spirit.
I said it looks like a spirit. It said it's like a cloud. We're sitting in the car right now, and my friend is videotaping him and talking to him. And as you can see on the right, there is like this cloudy thing that comes out of nowhere, and my son looks at it, and then it goes away.
Just looks like a reflection.
The DNA results come back.
And Mr. Long and Xavier Chmielewski is 0%.
Judge Lake introduces Ms. Brugger and Ms. Warner, who are already throwing accusations. Ms. Brugger claims her baby was fathered by Ms. Warner's late grandson, while Ms. Warner accuses her of wanting the family's oil money. Buckle up, because there's a sterility bombshell on the way.
Ms. Brugger, you are here to prove to the defendant that your son, Parrish Brooks Jr., was fathered by the defendant's grandson, who was tragically killed 2 months ago in an auto accident. Now, Ms. Warner, you are here with your granddaughter, and you don't believe Parrish Jr. is your great-grandson.
Things heat up as Ms. Warner claims her grandson couldn't have kids, while Ms. Brugger insists he's the father. She describes Parrish's commitment, showing up at appointments, and planning to sign the birth certificate. This is shaping up to be a wild courtroom drama.
We lived together. We were a family. He told everyone my girls were his stepdaughters. He called them his stepdaughters, everything. He was there through my whole pregnancy, all the doctor's appointments, No, he couldn't be there, but as soon as he got out, he was adamant about having the hospital hold on to the birth certificate before they turned it in so that he could sign it.
And then they're arguing about whether the baby looks like Parrish. Yes, it's forehead talk now. Ms. Warner says the baby doesn't resemble the family, but Ms. Brugger insists he looks just like Grandpa. Emotions are high as family members keep adding fuel to the fire.
But to me, that's not his job. He loved the baby, Your Honor, but the baby doesn't even look like him. He doesn't act like him. His forehead's not like, there's nothing about him to tell me that that is my grandson.
My son looks...
No, he doesn't.
Around his eyes, he looks just like him.
No,
he looks like his grandpa.
Grandpa ain't never did nothing for Parrish. Well,
that's what y'all say.
Ms. Warner explains she didn't question paternity earlier to keep Parrish happy while alive. She describes how close they were as she raised him after his mother died. Past family issues are suddenly brought back to stir things up.
Ms. Warner, is all this time, even when the baby was there, did you have doubt about the paternity?
But I wasn't going to say anything with Parrish.
You just didn't want to upset Parrish?
No, I did not want to come between Parrish and that. But now Parrish is no longer. I can say my piece now. Your Honor, his mother died in '85. I'm the only person was there for Parrish. That's why I just couldn't hurt him.
Ms. Brugger says she learned about Parrish's death through Facebook. Talk about a rough way to find out. Ms. Warner claims she was too upset to call, and Ms. Veasley accuses Ms. Brugger of shady past relationships. It's a web of accusations, and you need a playbook to keep track.
I got a phone call from one of my friends that seen it on Facebook. They had just found out that morning too, but you would think me.
I'm grieving. That was my son. I didn't have time to call nobody.
One of my friends seen it on Facebook.
So when I'm looking at Facebook at like 5 o'clock in the morning going to work, Grandma, have you heard anything about Parrish? I had just talked to Parrish the Friday that he died at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Ms. Brugger denies cheating, saying she was just doing hair as a licensed cosmetologist. Ms. Warner claims Ms. Brugger mistreated Parrish Jr. during a visit, sparking arguments over bad choices. This family has layers of drama, and they're not holding back.
First of all, I have a degree in cosmetology, so I do hair. When me and Parrish first got together, there's a guy I've known for years. He's my brother's friend. I've been doing his hair for years. It happened one time I was doing his hair. Parrish came home. He got mad about it. I stopped doing his hair. He never came back over again to get his hair done.
Ms. Brugger calls out Parrish's family for not accepting the baby. She says it hurt Parrish deeply that his family didn't celebrate his first child. Emotions peak as they prepare for the DNA results.
She has came to my house.
Yes.
To see my son. Maybe 3 times, 4. Every time they have seen my son, me and Parrish packed all the kids up and we had to go to their house. After my son was born, my family was at the house all the time coming to see the baby to the point where we're like, oh my God, go home so we get some rest. He was mad because he felt they were not embracing the fact that he finally did have a kid.
The DNA test proves
it has been determined by this court Mr. Harvey is related to Parrish Brooks Jr. Therefore, Parrish Brooks Sr. is also related to Parrish Brooks Jr.
Okay, buckle up, people. Things are about to get messy. The case of Owens Roe versus Rains kicks off with all the drama you'd expect. Ms. Owens says Mr. Rains left her high and dry while she was pregnant with their daughter, Jaime.
Ms. Owens, you say that after a whirlwind teenage romance and a brief marriage to Mr. Rains, he got you pregnant and then left high and dry to raise your daughter, Jamie, on your own. You say the defendant is fully aware he is your daughter's father, and you intend to prove this today.
Things between these two were like a soap opera. Love, fights, and lots of drama. Ms. Owens says she was a couple of weeks pregnant when she moved back in with her parents because, get this, Mr. Rains came home one night with friends and random girls. Awkward.
Because he was a lying, cheating piece of trash.
Oh!
I was actually 2 to 3 weeks pregnant when I went back and to live with my parents when he left me. This is after him and 2 of his friends had come home about 1 o'clock in the morning with 3 girls and expected me to think they were just friends.
Mr. Rains has his own version, though. He says they were on and off like a bad Wi-Fi signal. He even married her after a miscarriage, but after more back and forth drama, he says enough and bailed.
I was young back in those days. We were off and on. We were young, off and on, off and on. She got pregnant initially, and I married her because I was trying to do the right thing. She wanted to have a miscarriage. Again, after that, off and on, I got tired of it. It got old. And so she always wanted to go back home, so I let her go back home.
Oh, but here's the kicker. Ms. Owens sent him a letter saying she was is pregnant. And his response? Pretty much, nah, not my problem. Honestly, this relationship sounds like a reality TV show waiting to happen.
About 3 to 4 months, I get a letter from her, and that's saying she's pregnant. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I hate your luck. You know, I'm not with you, haven't been with you.
We had a few, not many. About the only time we really did have any connection was in bed.
So you felt like your husband was cheating. I have to ask you, were you cheating too?
No, ma'am, I sure wasn't.
I don't know.
Now it's math time, but not the boring kind. Mr. Raines pulls out a calendar to prove the dates don't line up. He claims they split in August, so there's no way he's the baby daddy since Jaime was conceived in October.
Is that the calendar you submitted to the court?
Yes. Jamie was born July 31st. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is when Clara says she's pregnant.
No, I got pregnant in October.
This is when she said 6, 8. So I left in August is when I left. I was no longer, we broke up. I was no longer with her in August.
Ms. Owens is like, nice try, buddy, and swears up and down that he was still around in October. Meanwhile, the judge is probably sitting there like, someone get me Advil.
I come home in October. He dropped me off at my parents' and told them, do something with her. I cannot.
That could have possibly been true. I mean, you were something to deal with.
If you hadn't have been such a piece of crap, I wouldn't have been so hard to get along with.
Maybe, maybe not.
And here's where it gets spicier than hot sauce. Ms. Owens says she got a letter from Mr. Raines while she was 7 months pregnant, and he basically told her to kick rocks. He even said not to give the baby his last name. Ouch.
When I was 7 months pregnant, out to here, and he said, you are not pregnant, it's all in your head. If you are pregnant, it is not mine. My last name, and do not put me on the birth certificate.
No.
I wanted my daughter to have a father like I had growing up. She did not have that.
When Jaime was born, Ms. Owens didn't even call Mr. Raines to say, hey, it's baby time. She went full-on independent mode and gave Jaime her maiden name instead.
And so when you gave birth, did you ask him to be there? Did you say, I'm having the baby, do you want to come to the hospital?
I did not want him around.
Oh.
I loved him so much when we got together that I would have done anything for him. And that love turned to pure hate. And I hated him as much as I loved him.
Meanwhile, Mr. Raines says he paid child support and even tried to be involved, but he claims Ms. Owens made it harder than a math test to see Jaime. Things are heating up, and Jaime's about to speak her truth.
Child support came to me. I get a letter.
By child support,
Child support.
it was not, I could have cared less if I had got any child support from him.
Paid. I took responsibility of her. I had family saying she looks like you and stuff. And I just thought I was doing the right thing, Your Honor. It was not easy with Miss Clara to try to even see her. They have a relationship with.
Get the tissues. Folks, Jaime shares how tough it was growing up not knowing who her real dad was. She says people told her all the time that she didn't look like Mr. Raines, and another guy might be her dad. Can you imagine hearing that growing up? Yikes.
Who did you think was your father growing up?
I've had several people tell me all through my life that I didn't look like him, that he wasn't, that there was, the timeline was off, that there was this other guy that I was, when I was 12. I was gonna move with Mr. Raines, and she told me that she was with someone else. I let it go because I thought, well, maybe she just don't want me moving with him.
Jaime says the whole thing was super confusing and painful. She just wants the truth already, because all this he said she said is giving her a headache. And same, honestly.
Being told that somebody else was my father, that, I've seen what the other person looks like. I personally think I look like the other.
You do. And then 6 months ago, when the man you believe to be your father, you think all this time this is my father, but he's going in and out of my life.
Right.
He pretty much affirms what your mother told you when you were 12.
Yeah.
All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. The DNA results are in.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Raines, you are the father.
This is wild, like a scene from a TV show. When Ms. Robertson was 8, her mom casually told her the guy she thought was her dad wasn't, and pointed to some random guy in a phone book saying, that's your real dad. Imagine having an identity crisis before you even hit double digits. Things only get messier from here.
Ms. Robertson, your world was turned upside down at the age of 8 when you received the shocking news to be your biological father was not. You were informed that the defendant, Mr. McBain Sr., is your father. You've dragged him to court to prove that today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Things get confusing fast. Ms. Robertson found her birth certificate, and guess whose name was on it? Mr. McBain, who claims his name got put there just because he was married to her mom, and he doubted being her dad from the start.
Why, if he's denying it, why is his name on my birth certificate? Why did he sign his rights away? And Your Honor, I have proof right here.
So this is your birth certificate.
Yes, my name may be on there, Your Honor. However, it's on there because the state put it on there. I had nothing to do with putting my name on her birth certificate.
It gets awkward and funny. Mr. McBain accuses Ms. Graham, his ex, of cheating and even claims she suggested a threesome. He says that's why he doubts Ms. Robertson is his kid, but the drama's far from over.
She was unfaithful. She asked me for a threesome at one point in the marriage as well.
After 8 years old, how were you coping?
I let it go until I turned right before my 13th birthday. And that's when I had told my mother that all I wanted for my 13th birthday was to meet Mr. McBain. She got it for me.
When Ms. Robertson turned 13, she just wanted to meet Mr. McBain. They met for 40 minutes and then he was gone again. She never heard from him after that. Can you imagine how much that hurt?
What do you remember?
It only lasted about 40 minutes, and that was like more than anything in the world for me at that time. And then it was over. After that, I believe I had talked to him a couple times after that. Then all of a sudden, his phone number got disconnected. It was taken out of the phone book. He was just gone, like he fell off the face of the earth.
I'm not her dad.
Here's a twist. Mr. McBain says the Coast Guard told him he was sterile, yet he had more kids later, which makes his claim a bit questionable, though he insists it proves he's not Ms. Robertson's dad.
I'm saying I'm not her father because while in the Coast Guard, just before she informed me that she was pregnant.
And you've got 3 kids after that, Mr. McBain. How are you
I
sterile?
have 3 kids after that. It was due to stress. I was under a great deal of...
you were under stress with other women.
I never once cheated on Miss Graham. I'm not like her.
Mr. McBain said he caught Ms. Graham cheating because of some clothes he found, but Ms. Graham insists they were his clothes. It's a classic, no, you did it argument, like a reality show where nothing makes sense.
I was working 7 days a week for about 3 months straight and went back home. As I'm walking across the living room, I look over and there's a pair of boots and a coat on the floor and a coat on
Your Honor, those were his boots and his coat.
I walked over to her room, I beat on the door, I said, I don't know who you are in there, but you've got 30 seconds to get out of my house or you're gonna be really sorry.
No.
Things turn cringeworthy. Mr. McBain thinks a guy from one of their threesomes could be Ms. Robertson's dad, but Ms. Graham denies it. Meanwhile, Ms. Robertson is just stuck in the middle, thinking, what is my life?
I believe that the guy that we had the threesome with is actually the father of Miss Roberts.
Excuse me. And who is that?
It's an individual I was stationed with.
Yeah, you were stationed with a lot.
I know, and so were you.
But wait a minute. Other men could potentially be Miss Robertson's father?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Well, between the Coast Guard telling me I was sterile, the fact that the man's Hawaiian, he's Samoan.
The court reads the DNA results.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. McBain Sr., you are not her father.
This kicks off with a wild courtroom intro. Garnett v. Langston. Ms. Garnett says she's here to prove Mr. Langston is her dad, while he's got some doubts. Both want apologies, and things just get crazier from there.
Ms. Garnett, you and your mother, Ms. Miller, have opened your case to prove to the defendant that he is your biological father. You are baffled because you consider him a daddy and a best friend and state his doubt is unwarranted and demand an apology once the results are revealed.
Mr. Langston sent a text saying he wasn't sure he was Ms. Garnett's dad and told her to ask your mom. It was like a grenade in a family chat and shook Ms. Garnett. But if you think that's bad, just wait, it gets worse.
So this started with a text.
So after almost 2 years of reaching out to my father after visiting him in 2015, finally responded with this message.
So I think your mother blanked me. She was missing around when you were born. I don't want to keep causing you pain, but I have mixed feelings about it. Talk to your mother and find out the truth.
Ms. Garnett visited Mr. Langston at a family funeral, and things were cool until he ghosted her afterward. Mr. Langston admits he always had doubts. His reasons? Well, there's something else.
We live in different states, Your Honor, but we had always been close. I went to visit him in Chicago for a funeral and was by his side for one of our family members. Everything was great, but when I returned back home, I don't know what happened. He just cut off communication.
Well, I wasn't talking to her like I normally do.
Why?
Because I was just harboring this that she's not my daughter.
At a funeral, Mr. Langston casually mentioned he might not be her father, like it was no big deal. Ms. Garnett was blindsided, but later he took it back. Next, money and DNA tests come into play.
2 years ago, when I was at the funeral with him, he had brought up for the very first time that he thought I may not have been his daughter, which blew my mind. Went on and on about him and my mother's past and all this, but then after he vomited all this tragedy on me, he recanted and took it back.
Bad enough feeling because I seen the fact right away, and I'm not trying to hurt her. I love her.
Money made it spicy. Mr. Langston says he paid child support for over 20 years. There was even an old DNA test Ms. Garnett took, but it was never finished, left like unfinished homework. Next, get ready for heartbreak.
I paid child support not only 18 years, I paid it 20 years.
But when
they
did you
started
start?
sending me checks back for overpayment, $1,700.
So how come you didn't take that $150,000 for a DNA test when before I turned 36 years old?
I'll tell you, I had an answer for you.
The text shook Ms. Garnett to her core. She shared how much she bonded with Mr. Langston and hoped their connection meant something. Despite the pain, she wasn't ready to give up. Up next, Mr. Langston gets super honest.
When he sent that text to me, I cried my hardest cry. I was devastated. I felt like he was taking my identity away from me because I've always known I was a Langston. I have so much about my father. When he came back into my life, an adult, it was like a piece of the puzzle was missing.
Mr. Langston says sending that text was one of the hardest things he's done. He couldn't keep lying about his doubts. He even took his first plane ride at 61 to resolve this, his version of a midlife crisis with paternity tests. Then, social media joins the mix.
I didn't want to hurt her. When I had that phone and did that text, it crushed me when I pushed that button because I know what the effect was going to have on her. I didn't want to. But how am I going to deny how I feel in the inside? How I'm going to do that when I got grandbabies and I want them to be my grandbaby? That'll be the best news I can ever have.
Ms. Garnett posted a side-by-side photo of her and Mr. Langston's dad, and her cousins went wild, saying they looked alike. It turned into a family resemblance debate that landed in court. But DNA results are about to steal the spotlight.
You began to post on Facebook.
After the text message, I did some soul searching. I was just laying in my bed looking through my phone, and I saw a picture of myself. This picture reminded me of this picture of my grandfather. This is Mr. Langston's father. And I noticed some similarities in our faces. I said, "This is my grandfather. Do you see the resemblance?"
Boom.
When it comes to 36-year-old Shauna Garnett, Mr. Langston, you are not father.
Miss Garcia explains that Miss Huffman, who's younger than her and her father, claims to have 2 kids with her dad. Garcia's response? DNA test, please. Things are heating up, and it's getting as wild as microwave leftovers.
Ms. Garcia, you claim that before your father's death, Ms. Huffman, who is 31 years younger than him and 6 years younger than you, and was pregnant with another. You have petitioned the court for a DNA test to protect your father's estate and his name by supporting that he is not the father of the defendant's 2 daughters.
Garcia says her dad was certain these kids weren't his and called out Huffman for getting around. Huffman isn't having it though, and her side is coming in hot.
Well, I'm basically here on behalf of my dad because he passed away about 2 years ago. He was not sure that if they were his or not because she had gotten around.
So the questions that remain have been unanswered. So Ms. Huffman, it's your belief that Ms. Garcia's father did both of your children?
Yes.
Miss Huffman shares she met Garcia's dad at a carnival because nothing says love like Ferris wheels. She insists she wasn't seeing anyone else when her daughter Claudia was conceived. But Garcia is about to drop some Facebook drama, so buckle up.
So take me to the day you believe you conceived Claudia, your older child.
On March 17th of 2013.
And you all were dating, you hanging out together.
It was more like hanging out in the truck.
You would hang out in his truck.
Goof around in the beginning, and then we got into the whole thing on how you get pregnant.
Huffman DM'd Garcia out of the blue about the kids, and Garcia had no clue they even existed. Suddenly, Garcia is throwing out serious accusations that change the whole story.
She messaged me on Facebook and she said that she was pregnant with a child and that she had a 2-year-old daughter, that they were my dad's. And he basically said that yes, that he was messing around with her, but he didn't believe that those were his children. She got around, pretty much said that they weren't his.
Garcia says her dad doubted the kids were his because he caught Huffman getting cozy with the neighbor. Huffman denies it, and things get juicier with talk of a previous paternity test.
And he pretty much told me that one day she was at his house and he couldn't find her, so he went looking for her, and he saw her in the backyard with the neighbor and she was giving him oral sex.
Whoa!
No, it's not.
did her father actually catch you with another man?
No.
Huffman once tested another man for Claudia's paternity before, which adds to the mess. A court employee confirmed Huffman wasn't sure who the dad was. Meanwhile, Garcia did something surprising despite her doubts.
While assisting the defendant, Ms. Huffman, with setting up a DNA test for her and her daughters, she unknowingly admitted that she tested another man in the past. She said that she did not remember if she brought birth certificate with her the last time she tested a man against Claudia, which indicated to me that she truly does not know who the biological father of Claudia is.
Garcia, being nicer than anyone expected, still listed Huffman's daughters as siblings during her father's cremation arrangements. Huffman refused to sign, raising more doubts and bringing everyone to one conclusion: DNA time.
To get the results for my kids, to be able to financially make it with them with their health issues. There's times where I don't even have a phone because I'm putting it in for the kids.
I hope that they are my sisters, and I hope to tell them about my dad and what a wonderful man he was.
And Carrie Garcia is 99.9% you are related.